So, big breaking news. Jasprit Bumrah is out the Champions Trophy. So the big question is, can India still win it?
Yes and no. I mean,
Or maybe.
they've been favourites for ages. I think one of the reasons they're so short, other than the cricket they've been playing against England of recent times, but I think one of the reasons being so short is because they're not in a particularly tough group. They've got New Zealand, Pakistan and Bangladesh.
Yeah.
The other group is a bloodbath, right? You've got Australia, South Africa, Afghanistan and England. I don't even know who the worst team is in that group, whereas I'm pretty sure I know who it is in India's group. Pakistan have been playing pretty good cricket. New Zealand haven't been playing any ODI cricket, and Bangladesh aren't very good. So they should still get through to the finals. And then it's, can you win 2 games in a row? At what stage in those 2 games do you need Jasprit Bumrah, though? Right? They would have lost the last T20 World Cup without Jasprit Bumrah. Like, there's no way they're coming back.
Yeah.
I know Hardik Pandya got the wicket that started it. It was Bumrah that caused all the issues for South Africa there, right?
Yeah.
They don't. You watch Mohammad Shami getting hit around a little bit by England the other day. Mohammad Siraj is the backup at this stage. They don't believe in him. Arshdeep Singh is still young and not a great 50-over bowler. Harshit Rana, I don't know if you saw it the other day, Bumble, where he had 5 dot balls in a row, and then he threw 4 overthrows past it. So he should have got a maiden, and he ended up just throwing the ball for 4 off his own bowling. I'm just saying he might not be the most mature, ready cricketer to take over. There's a big drop from any of those guys to Jasprit Bumrah because he is probably the greatest white ball bowler of all time.
Yeah, well, you're going to miss him for one, but they're playing great cricket.
Yes.
I think they're a super team. They're full of confidence. And I'd always look at who's the opportunity for somebody to come in, somebody who wouldn't have made the trip. So that's a great opportunity, and I always look that way. But you can't get away from if your best bowler in the world ain't playing for you, you've got a bit of a problem. But they are playing super cricket. They look as if they've got the idea of 50 over cricket, which is a formula. England haven't got it. They just haven't got it. 30 overs and double the score with wickets intact. It's dead simple. 170, get to 170, which is not 6, not a runner ball, and then double your score with wickets in hand.
How much do you think you can take from the way they've gone about playing England?
Oh, a lot. I just think if you get into the habit of winning, it builds your confidence. And for the people who watch, millions, zillions of people, they're going to back the team. It's another player. And I think there's a feel-good factor. When you're going to a tournament with loads of wins, I think you're saying, come on, bring it on, whoever it is. And you've got to, one step at a time, and get out of your group and play good cricket. And then you're into 2 games. Bring your A game. So your management, your captain, there's a contentment. There's a contentment comes with winning. Look at England, he lost 6 out of 7, but spirits are high. Are they really?
Well, it doesn't matter if England win anymore, so we're okay with that. I think the issue with India at the moment is that they can outbat any side.
Yes.
And they can, their spin flexibility is massive. Bumrah is just insurance, isn't it? It's a bit like Australia. When Shane Warne didn't play for Australia and they had Brad Hogg, there was nothing wrong with Brad Hogg, but Brad Hogg was going to keep the machine ticking. But you could do that knowing that if you got to the end, McGrath would still be able to pull it back. They don't have anyone to pull it back now. So if anyone does get close in the 2 knockout games, that's when it could be interesting. They should still qualify easily. It is the easier group.
And they know where they're playing. Well, all teams know where they play now. But do you think, in a way, they would have been better suited to have played in Pakistan rather than the UAE? I mean, forget all the politics, but in terms of the
pitches.
The pitches. Their strength now is within the variety and experience of their spin bowling rather than their pace attack. No Mohammad Siraj, he's a non-travelling reserve. So the drop-off is even more pronounced than what it would have been like a couple of months ago. When you consider, as you just said, Mohammad Shami looks well short and it's going to take him a while to get back up to speed because he's played so little cricket. No Siraj. So suddenly, there's no Bumrah, they're going to be reliant more on Hardik Pandya than you would have thought.
I think the one thing I would say is if you look at the last 2 World Cups, none of the pitches, everyone's like, oh, we're going to India for a World Cup, there's going to be millions of runs. And it's like, ends up being an arm wrestle. All the 2 of the finals are arm wrestles. A bunch of the other games are really tough. There's a couple of pitches that you made 1 million runs on. We're having a T20 World Cup in Australia. There's going to be runs everywhere. No one makes a single run small grounds in the West Indies.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
It's going to be the first 400
Yeah,
T20.
that's all we ever hear, and then none of these things end up happening.
Yeah.
Right? So generally what has happened so far is that when the ICC's been involved in tournaments over the last 7 or 8 years, even if we thought they're going to be batting tournaments, they end up being bowling tournaments. That probably, if you're playing in Pakistan, most of the pitches in Pakistan are pretty flat, and maybe India can just score 370, 380 with their one line out. We don't really know what the UAE is going to be like, right? And
It doesn't inconvenience their spinners.
It doesn't, but it's whether the UAE is so random. Some of the wickets there are not always just good for spin. They can, at least with Pakistan, I think we know it's going to be fairly flat, and then in the middle you should be able to control the game with spin a little bit. UAE could go in a few different directions. Sometimes you get pitches in the UAE where the ball flies through. So I think it gives them a little bit more randomness. I think if you have Bumrah, it doesn't matter. But if you don't have Bumrah, I'd probably prefer to play on the Pakistan wickets where we think there's going to be maybe 20 or 30 more runs scored per game, because India can blow a few teams out. Like, if India get going, there's absolutely no way that New Zealand or Pakistan could score as many runs as them. Right? They'll never be able to score that fast. If it's a low-scoring game in the UAE on a spinning wicket, Kane Williamson, Devon Conway, do you know what I mean? Then other things can start. India don't want that anymore. Now they want high-scoring games so that they can blow everyone out. And I think they'd be better off on the Pakistani wickets in the UAE for that.
So, you're talking about the confidence that comes from winning. What about the reverse of that? Because the chances are India will come up against Australia. You think. Australia may, they're without Cummins, they're without Hazelwood, they're without Green, they're without Stoinis. That was a bit strange.
I still don't know what
No,
happened.
I don't get that either. So what happens if India come up against Australia in the semi-final or the final? Do you think the memories of that horror final in India in 2023 will bear any relevance to that game?
I mean, that shouldn't come into it, but that is an absolute shootout. You'd say that the two best teams, and South Africa, I think, will be a real potent force. But if you come up against India versus Australia, if you're in that camp, if you're a manager or a coach at that, you need your A game. If you haven't got your A game, they'll motor all over you, whichever side. And so you may get Australia will try and bully it. They might bully the game, but you need a lot of bullying for that batting lineup. I think it's a sensational batting lineup, and they'll out-bat anybody. But there's a real bullness about Australia. Australia will be saying, bring it on. Whoever you are, bring it on.
And what about Arshdeep Singh? Because we've spoken a lot about him in terms of T20 cricket. This is a guy that only made his debut in 2022, midway point in 2022, so he's only been playing for a couple of years. And yet he's taken more T20 wickets than anyone else. It surprises me because I didn't think India played that much international T20. Obviously they do.
He's played almost 60. Every time they've played.
He's been consistent. But as an ODI bowler, as a bowler that's now going to be entrusted with essentially replacing, I know Nitish Rana's been brought in, but it's going to be Arshdeep Singh, it's going to be their strike bowler. So as a step up, and in terms of him as an ODI bowler,
right?
How do you think he's going to go?
I just think he's a little bit loose in one-day cricket so far. I think he's like 22 or 23. So I've been watching him bowl since he was a teenager. If you told me in 2 or 3 years' time he could be a major one-day bowler, I think that would be fine. But I think at the moment he bowls like a young swing bowler, which is sometimes he just over-pitches a little bit, sometimes he just bowls a little bit too wide, and he doesn't get away with it. In T20 cricket, everyone's trying to whack him. In one-day cricket, they'll milk him a little bit more. I think that's where he might have an issue. Talent isn't his issue, and composure isn't his issue. I don't think he'll have any problems. Whether he could just hit a spot for, 60 consecutive balls would be my only question with him.
Massive difference, 4 overs to 10.
Yeah.
And if you're the opposition, test him out. Really get into him. This is not T20, mate. This is not a little party. You've got to come back and probably come back again.
Yeah.
So, that'll be something that he won't be used to. But if you're opposition, you try and play on that. Let's see what he's got.
If not India, who?
It's hard because, Bumble said Australia and South Africa. I'm not sure what their teams are at the moment. Like, everyone is injured. At one stage, I think South Africa had like 7 frontline bowlers injured at the same time.
It's almost as though playing cricket 12 months a year at the highest level is a bit of a problem.
A lot of them weren't even fit for the SA20.
South Africa are a unit. They're coming good. You get their injuries if they can get the injured players back. So are we disregarding West Indies?
West Indies aren't in the tournament?
Oh God.
England. I mean,
England.
Pakistan? Are we disregarding them?
Yes. I mean, Pakistan are playing at home. They've been winning.
You never know.
Well, they are the defending champions.
Hey, 8 years ago. Is Ali playing in this tournament?
Or Northampton.
Look, I think they have been winning a lot of one-days. They played okay in Australia. They played okay in South Africa at times. Not always against full-strength sides, but they played some good cricket. I just think when it gets to the finals, they don't. If you were asking me who's more likely to win out of them and Afghanistan, it would take me a while. Like, I like Afghanistan.
Even if the final is in the final, unless they play India, is in Pakistan.
Yeah.
I mean, home advantage.
I'd never write Pakistan off. You never know what's going to come. You just don't. Going back to Imran Khan, Wasim Akram, you don't know what's going to come.
It doesn't quite look as dynamic. As
it doesn't, but it never did. It never did.
Yeah, but even if you look at when they won in 2017, which they started by playing the worst game of cricket, I think I wrote an article at the time saying playing Pakistan at the moment is like having a bye.
Well,
it was
same
one
as
of
the
the worst
1992 World Cup, the first
Yeah,
game.
exactly.
That's it.
Yeah.
But
Exactly.
you look at those teams, and I think they had more moving parts that could.
Yeah.
Maybe if everything comes together, but I think for me, if it's either India or it's Australia, South Africa, and if you want an outsider, Afghanistan's the best outsider. They're going to be suited by the pitches. They've got a bloodbath of a group, so they can easily squeak by. The way England plays spin, there's a big matchup advantage for them there. Australia hasn't always handled playing Afghanistan. Remember, it took Glenn Maxwell to play the greatest innings of all time to get past them last time. And Heinrich Klaassen, I know, just made runs in I think his last knock, but he's been in terrible form and all the South Africans are injured. I like Afghanistan in this tournament. I like them. I'm more confident in them than I am in New Zealand or Pakistan, even though both of those sides could bring things together.
Quiet achievers, New Zealand, every time.
They might be even quiet for themselves this time.
Well, they've just beaten Pakistan and South Africa.
No, it's easy then. I mean, this is how stupid cricket is. Did you see the team that South Africa put up? It's a warm-up for the Champions Trophy. And I'm looking at this lineup going, these guys weren't even in the SA20. Who are these people?